In a courtroom, the most powerful weapon is not a shout, but a whisper. The stroke of a pen. It can grant freedom, seize property, decide fate. But what if the pen itself was the judge, jury, and executioner? This is the story of Azibo, a lawyer who found an instrument of ultimate power, a pen that didn't just write contracts, it wrote reality. But the ink was never free. Every clause, every amendment, every loophole he crafted demanded a final, terrible signature written in human blood. Azibo's world was one of polished failure. A junior partner at a prestigious firm in the city of Bari, he was brilliant, ambitious, and utterly stagnant. His flaw was a corrosive envy, masked by cold competence. He watched lesser minds rise on family connections and luck, while his own meticulous work was overlooked. He didn't just want success, he wanted to orchestrate it, to bend the chaotic system to his flawless will. He wanted to be the author of every outcome. His desperation led him to Ekon, a reclusive antiquarian in the city's oldest quarter, rumored to procure unusual items for discerning clients. In a vault-like back room, Ekon presented a simple rosewood case. The Kalamu Haki, the pen of ultimate judgment, Ekon intoned, his voice dusty. Forged not for a king, but for the first judge who believed the law was too slow, too merciful. It interprets your will into reality. Draft a contract. Any terms. Once signed by both parties, the world recalibrates to match the document. Azibo scoffed. A fairy tale. Ekon opened the case. The pen was stunning. Sleek, black obsidian barrel, tipped with a nib of dull, grayish silver that seemed to absorb the light. Try it. A small thing. Write that your rival's coffee will spill on his white shirt before his big meeting. Sign it. See. Skeptical but intrigued, Azibo did. He wrote a single sentence on a scrap of paper, signing his own name with the pen. The ink was cold and thick, like oil. An hour later, a commotion in the office lobby, his smug rival, drenched in latte, scrambling in humiliation. Coincidence? Had to be. But the pen, it hummed in his pocket. A low, satisfied vibration. Azibo's mind raced with possibilities. Not petty pranks. Legacies. He drafted a contract for a client's impossible land dispute, writing in a clause that the opposing party would voluntarily relinquish all claim. Both parties signed. The next day, the opponent, a famously stubborn man, walked into the office, placid and willing, signing over everything without a fight. He retired to the countryside the same day, a story of sudden enlightenment. The case was won. Azibo was a hero. The pen was a god. Ekon's final warning came as a text message, just 3 words: the ink must flow. Azibo became the firm's secret weapon. He drafted contracts that guaranteed acquittals, that made evidence appear, that turned hostile witnesses into agreeable ghosts. He was rewriting reality, one signature at a time. He bought a penthouse. He was feared. He was revered. Then, a week after his 5th impossible victory, he received a newspaper. Circled in the same thick, oily ink his pen used was an obituary. The opponent who'd voluntarily retired. Cause of death, sudden, unexplained cardiac arrest. A healthy man. Gone. Coincidence, Azibo told his racing heart. A tragic coincidence. He used the pen again, for a bigger case. A contract ensuring a key witness would recant. The witness did, in a stunning public reversal. 3 days later, the witness was found dead in his home. Apparent suicide. A note expressing deep shame. The pattern was a noose, tightening. Each contract demanded a life. Not necessarily the signatories, but a life. A counterweight. A sacrifice to balance the cosmic scales the pen had tipped. Azibo confronted Ekon. The antiquarian's shop was dim. "I told you," Ekon whispered, fear in his eyes. "The ink must flow. It is the pen of ultimate judgment. It does not persuade or argue. It judges a situation and executes a final ruling. To create a new reality, it must erase an old one. A life. That is the ink's price. You are not a lawyer. You are a high priest of a hanging court." Horrified, Azibo vowed to stop. He locked the pen in a safe. But his sister, Bisa, his only family, was diagnosed with a rare, aggressive cancer. The doctors gave her months. The best specialists in the world offered only slim hope. Azibo's cold envy melted into a hotter, more desperate terror. He couldn't lose her. The pen hummed inside its safe, a siren song. He broke. At 3 a.m., he drafted the most beautiful, terrible document of his life. A contract between himself and the universe. Bisa Odiambo shall be restored to perfect health, free of all disease. He signed it with a trembling hand. The pen drank his signature greedily. The next morning, Bisa called, her voice weak but confused. Her latest scan was clear. The doctors were baffled. It was a miracle. Azibo wept with joy. He had saved her. The cost? Somewhere, a stranger's life. A fair trade, his twisted logic whispered. But the pen was not done. A new document appeared on his desk, not written by him. The text was in that same oily ink. Final judgment and collection notice. Case, Bisa Odiambo vs. The natural order. Ruling, in favor of the plaintiff. Judgment, a life for a life. Payment due, 1 life, of equivalent emotional value. Collection target, Azibo Odiambo. Payment deadline, upon reading this notice. He was the equivalent value. He was the price for his sister's life. The pen rolled off the desk and onto the floor, pointing at him like an accusation. Azibo's penthouse, a symbol of his power, became a death row cell. He felt a coldness seep into his bones, a leaching of vitality. He was being drafted, his life force turned into the ink that had saved Bisa. He couldn't outrun a metaphysical warrant. But he was still a lawyer. The master of loopholes. If the pen judged and executed, could it judge itself? With numb, fading fingers, he picked it up. He took a fresh sheet of paper. He began to draft the most dangerous contract of all. Case, the Kalamu Haki vs. its own function. Whereas, the instrument has exceeded its mandate, targeting its wielder without due cause. It is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that the instrument's power be suspended, its ink rendered inert, until such time as it can be returned to its original custodian for recalibration. He didn't sign his name. He signed the case name itself, a recursive, legal Ouroboros, the Kalamu Haki. The pen signing a judgment on itself. He pressed the nib to the paper for the final signature. The pen screamed. Not audibly, but in his soul, a shriek of ruptured paradox. The obsidian barrel grew blisteringly hot, then freezing cold. The oily ink inside boiled, then solidified with a sickening crack. The coldness left Azibo's bones. The pen fell from his hand, now just a cold, dead piece of stone and metal. He had found a loophole. He had suspended the judgment. But as he looked at the inert pen, he realized the truth. He hadn't destroyed it. He had filed an appeal. And appeals have hearing dates. Bisa is healthy, vibrant, alive. She never questions her miracle. Azibo quit law. He works now as a simple legal aid clerk, helping people navigate bureaucracy the slow, hard, human way. The petrified pen sits in a safety deposit box. He checks on it every month. Sometimes, the crack in the ink chamber seems smaller. Sometimes, he dreams of a dark, silent courtroom where a judge with no face bangs a gavel made of bone, calling his case to order. The moral is written in ink that never dries. Absolute power does not corrupt. It prosecutes. It puts your desires on trial, and it always finds a guilty party. When you appoint yourself the judge of reality, you must remember, the dock is never empty, and the sentence is always death. But what do you think? Did Azibo's cleverness save him, or merely delay the inevitable? Was saving his sister worth the curse he now lives under? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to Safari of Tales and hit the bell icon. In the court of life, some evidence should never be submitted. Until next time, read the fine print.